Welcome back, everybody, to True Talk with TruMotion. My name is Mark, followed by my co-host Stephen. We're just a couple of guys trying to help to make the world a better place and hopefully make your day a little bit better in the process. So let's get things kicked off. So first off the bat, we have a very special guest in the studio today. Her name is Master Kelly D'Alessio. She is the first female master in the TruMotion martial arts system. And she has been training, well, how long have you been training?
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you.
It has been since 1995, so that's...
1995,
yes,
okay.
28-ish years.
That is quite the feat in and of itself. I mean, most people don't even have jobs for that long, so... The fact that you kind of stuck with something for that long just kind of shows just kind of the personality type that you have. So speaking of getting started in 95,
yes.
what made you want to kind of get involved with training?
I always wanted to do karate. It just wasn't a thing. For women of my generation, we didn't have softball leagues and soccer leagues and all that kind of thing. So I wanted to be in a sport and hadn't done anything. And I was married at the time and told my husband, I've always wanted to try karate. So for Christmas, under the tree, a brand new gi and a 2-week intro to...
That's awesome.
To karate. Yes, it was a Christmas present.
That is way cool. And we're coming up on Christmas.
Yes, so the perfect choice.
That's anyone. Awesome. So when you said when you were growing up they didn't have many options for young women, did you grow up in Salt Lake or where did you grow up?
I grew up in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Okay.
And tennis. Well, if you're a girl, you better do some tennis.
So, yeah, it seems like the only options, unfortunately, for women back then, or young ladies, was like tennis or cheerleading.
Pretty much true. Ice
or
skating
you could do
winter.
Ice skating or like choir and drama, but nothing very, very, well, let me rephrase. Cheerleading and tennis is very physical.
Yes.
But nothing in terms of like a competitive sports team.
Well, soccer really wasn't even a thing at the time, but no soccer. I went to plenty of my brother's baseball games, football games, t-ball even, but...
and they were just like, no girls allowed. So that's really neat that you're able to finally break into it. Okay, so without trying to date you too much, how old were you when you started?
I'm 65 now, so I was in my late 30s, about 37. And that, to me, that looks super young.
Yeah, so anytime anybody says, oh, I'm too old to start, you just want to like smack them upside the head?
I do. Everyone wishes they started when they were 7 years old and were Jackie Chan by the time they're 50, but it is absolutely never too late to start. And boy, by the 30s, you really need something that's focuses on flexibility and balance, and this is the perfect sport for those types of things. Maybe when you're 37, you don't want to go out and get tackled in football. Or
yeah, that's true.
I understand that men's basketball is one of the dangerous sports there is.
Men's church league basketball.
Okay.
Church league basketball. Yeah, you don't mess around. You better make sure you're up to date on your health insurance. And, all that stuff. So,
but you think, oh, martial arts, that's got to be dangerous and all kinds of injuries, but not really. When safety is such an important element.
Yeah.
Because you think martial arts, MMA, and you punch each other and all those conditioning drills, but no, we want to keep people for life.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be a martial artist at 90 if you're...
broken.
Yes.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody, everybody always assumes that you get injured a lot training. And I've been injured far more often and worse not training. So doing it, like all the other things, I find that I would be injured, I would get hurt, something tweaks, you pull something, and all of a sudden, like, you get in the dojo and people are actively kicking and punching at you, and that's probably the safest I've ever been.
It is, because we have this great culture at TruMotion where, yeah, people are punching and kicking at you, but no one's trying to knock you through the wall. We realize we're learning, we're training, and so control and safety are...
Yeah, people's egos are pretty well in check. I would absolutely agree with you with that.
I don't know culture. Anybody that has an blown up ego. Mm-hmm. I just love everybody.
And it's funny because the people that do tend to not last very long. Not because they, like, we kick them out or nothing. They just kind of work themselves out, or they drop it. Most of the time they drop it.
Yes, I remember once long ago there was a young man, he was still in high school, and a natural athlete on the football team, on every team, and the letterman and so forth. So he had little ego going on there. So during one of his first tests, we had the other students carry him when they went on a run. And that was the worst thing that could ever have happened to him. I mean, carry me, yeah, I don't want to go running, carry me. But he will just, no, I can run, I can do it myself. And no, that was his Achilles heel, was letting the ego go. And
it's funny, you hear stories like that, and they're great inspirational stories, and they're great learning lessons. But man, I would be afraid to do that today. Because it's like, you would have someone make up some weird, I don't know, weird comment or some weird statement about, oh, they're carrying this person, and twist it all around. And it's like, no, it's a lesson that this kid needs to learn. Like, don't look too deep into it.
I agree that things have changed a lot over the years. I believe, well, that's changed in school. When I was in grade school, you could be sent to the principal for a paddling, for heaven's sakes. And
the teachers would keep that like right next to their desk.
Yes.
I remember my dad telling me he was an Air Force brat, so he would bounce from like base to base. And most of the time he would be in like Catholic schools. And the nuns would have rulers. And he said he got a ruler broken over his head one time because he wasn't paying attention. And it's like, holy cow.
Yes, my husband, Robert DeLessio, is a Catholic from New Jersey. And the nuns would smack your knuckles. I've heard plenty of stories about that.
So yeah, because you have come through a few generations of, I guess you could say, students, and like training eras. Like, where do you feel like? Because I feel like back in the day it was too hard, and now it's like we're trying to balance that being hard without being like. You kind of get what I'm saying? It's like,
I absolutely do.
Because you'd borderline think like back in the day it was borderline abusive. And it's like, yeah, whatever, that we just called that discipline. But now it's like, nowadays it's like you can't even like sneeze in the direction of the kid, and then they're like, oh, okay, you're in trouble.
I think there are, both methods have their upside. Now I think we want to see your material.
Yeah.
And we're going to wear you out first, so we make sure you can hold it together and do it when you're tired and would rather sit down and have a nice cold drink. So they're, testing now, it makes sense. Testing back then was maybe a little more mental. They would yell at you, scream at you. You really get worn out before you even had to show your stuff. And that, I think, prepares you for real life.
Okay.
Because when you grow up and go out and get a job and, try for your job against 50 other applicants, you need to be mentally tough.
I agree.
From the very beginning, our chief instructor calls me a name that my dad made up when I was in the 2nd grade that always made me cry. Kelly with the big fat belly. So I'm still Kelly Belly. And he said, hey, if that's the worst thing that happens to you, nah.
Yeah.
Handle that, and when you go out on the street and someone really gets after you, it'll be no big deal. So
that is true. I would agree with that. I do say that our testing and our training methods have become a lot better, but I do feel like what you said was a very, very key part. The mental toughness that it took to go through certain things, I think is, and maybe that's just up to us as instructors and senior instructors and, all that, to kind of try to reinstill in this younger generation, because it feels like they sometimes feel like they have no backbone.
I can see that, and it's hard to do. For me, I'm just a marshmallow. I walk into the dojo and the little kids run over, and the hugs all around, and I don't want to go, toughen up.
Yeah. Well,
Life's hard.
You definitely have to be, you're definitely the good cop. We have Master Martin to be the bad cop.
Yes.
So you definitely balance him out. So, you definitely want to play your role as Grandma Kelly, and it's like, oh, Master Martin was mean to you. Oh, come here. I will make it better.
Yes, it's all right. Hey, you're doing great.
Yeah. So I agree. So speaking about when real life, kind of talk us through your professional life, because I know you were kind of a borderline groundbreaker in terms of like women in the professional industry.
Yes, I retired almost 3 years ago. I can't believe it, from KSL TV, where I worked for 40 years. I was a writer, producer, director, and talk about an industry that's changed over the years. I was one of the only women in doing my job, which was making videos and TV commercials and just whatever was required.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, okay, most people probably don't understand or think, oh, you women, you're always complaining, but shortly when I started work in the early 1980s, I went to a meeting, and it was a big meeting. Panasonic was there, and Sony was there, and all these people, and KSL was hosting the meeting. And the woman that introduced everyone said, here's our president of the station, and here's our vice president of the station, and got to me and said, and here's our little Kelly. Isn't she too cute to be a producer? And my mouth fell open. I went, what? Are you kidding me?
It's like, you just want to get up and that came from another woman.
It did.
It's like, why did that have to do that way?
I know. Here's the president. Here's the this and
all
that.
All these big titles, and then
there's
Kelly.
Our little Kelly. And man, I'm sure hope nothing like that happens to any of the young business women today. But
I definitely know that you kind of helped blaze that trail for women. I don't want to say in the workforce, but women in that professional realm. Because you never really heard about too many. Because this was back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes, I actually started. I have a degree in advertising and public relations, but I started at a TV station in Idaho in the late 70s.
Okay.
And, I'm the only girl there, and you just did everything. You drove the truck, you hauled the cameras, you did the cords. I mean, it was great training.
It's funny because my wife is in the professional corporate realm as well, and every now and then she'll tell me stories, and she goes, I don't think they do it intentionally. It's just kind of been programmed in them. To where she's like, in terms of like hierarchy, it'll usually go like, the president, then like the CEO or the CFO, and the CFO, and then her.
Yes.
So she always reports to the CFO, and then the CFO will talk to her like she's her secretary. She's his secretary.
Ouch.
Be like, hey, I need you to book this for me, and she goes, I'm not your secretary. Like, I will help you. I will help you this time, but like, yeah, every now and then she just has to. She has to remind these guys. It's like, no, I'm not your secretary.
Oh.
Like, if you want a secretary, go hire one. Like, I'm in charge of this. And it's like, I sympathize with a lot of women in the modern workforce. But like you said, you know, things have been changing, and sometimes people complain when they don't need to. But yeah, it's a definite thing for sure.
And it's a confidence builder, and
Yeah.
this has helped me, martial arts has helped me so much develop that confidence. And not to get all bent out of shape about a slight. If I'm out shooting somewhere and the client, instead of talking to me, who's the director on the scene, looks to the cameraman and says, what do you think? I could, I'm offended and hop off, but it's like, okay, fine. I see where you're coming from. This doesn't bother me.
Man, I really hate that word offended. Like, it offends me.
Oh, I'm offended.
Are you offended by that?
Because it's been so overused that it's become almost meaningless. That, like, what do you mean you're offended? Like, nothing was said to you.
Yes.
So it's like, I really appreciate hearing from people that they take that concept of like, well, this could offend me, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not that big a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, okay, if he wants to talk to him, great, but the cameraman's going to turn and talk to me anyways.
Right. So you, sir, you're paying the bill. Do it however you want.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's great. And you need that confidence. Can you imagine walking around being unsure of yourself all the time? Or, oh, he doesn't think I'm in charge. What do I do? That's no way to be. You need to believe in yourself.
Exactly. No, it's funny when you speak of confidence. You would think that most people wouldn't have a issue with that, but I got a funny story for you. Okay, speaking of confidence, guy.
Love funny stories.
Yeah, we'll omit all the names, okay? Because I doubt this person will listen to it anyways, but who knows? Well, over the weekend we had my wife's company party.
Oh.
So, and she's got this coworker that, for lack of a better term, is rather obsessed with her. So, like if Shanna dresses like this, then the next week she'll dress like that.
Oh boy!
If we go on this type of vacation, she wants to go on that type of vacation.
Ouch!
Yeah. So, and like I tend to sometimes make Shanna's lunches for her. So she's like, hey, can you make me a sandwich or whatever? I'd be like, okay, fine, I'll make you a sandwich. Not a big deal.
Great husband.
Yeah, I try to be. And then all of a sudden, that coworker's husband starts making sandwiches.
Boy.
Okay, so it's borderline like, hey, this is weird. So anyways,
they make a movie about that.
Exactly. So over the weekend, we had the company party, and her husband were there. And her husband came over and tried to spark up a conversation with me.
Oh.
And I was with one of my good friends that I've been friends with for going on 26 years. And he works with my wife. So I'm hanging out with my friend, and he comes over and he starts talking to us about our vacation we're going to go on. And I'm like, I'm not telling him anything because then they're gonna copy our next vacation.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna get to the pool, and there he is.
So I was like, I don't know, dude. I just go wherever my wife tells me to. And then he tries to start talking again, and at this point, it's kind of late in the night. I've been, everybody's been having fun. It was a casino style night, so everybody was gambling, and I was just being not very talkative, giving like kind of one-word answers, and not being anything except that. And I was, hanging out with my buddy. His name's Ron. So the other day, Shanna texted me and she goes, "I got a funny story to tell you." I go, "What is that?" And she's all like, "Well, so and so apparently just bitched and complained about you all night home because you were rude and you didn't want to be his friend.
Oh.
And I'm like, he said he didn't want to be I didn't want to be his friend. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, and the wife is rather upset about that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And she goes, no, apparently they just wouldn't let it go. And I'm like,
there are
seriously?
Two people that need martial arts.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly. It's like, man, I didn't realize that me just kind of being aloof would strike him to be so sensitive.
You crushed him.
Yeah, and I was like, I maybe see this person once a year, and it's like, I'm sorry, but like, my circle's pretty full, and I've got I don't have a whole lot of time to like try to add somebody into this mix of chaos that I've got called life. So, but it's like, man, I feel bad because it's like, I feel like he walks around with that kind of, that lack of confidence that because apparently he's a phenomenal like construction worker. So it's like, dang, dude, like you could really make something of yourself if you didn't worry too much about what other people thought or trying to be like somebody else, and you just worried about being you.
Boy, if I fell apart when somebody didn't like me.
Oh, God, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I tried to be nice, but...
yeah, I don't know who doesn't like you, Kelly. If they don't like you, there's a special place.
There's a problem with them.
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, you can't...
can't please everybody.
No.
And you can't worry. You really can't worry about what other people think of you. So...
I'd like to say a story along those same lines as well.
Cool.
I recently submitted one of my first works. So one of my first books that I do, I submitted it to the author for review. And I was stressing out. I was like, this is awful. This is terrible. I don't know how anyone's going to listen to this. I don't like the sound of my voice. And it's like, I got to say, Stephen, shut up. Just submit it. And so I submitted it. And that was yesterday. This is recent. And this morning, I got 2 emails. One that it was approved.
Ooh.
And the second email, the author wanted me to read another one of his books.
Oh,
there you go.
Wonderful.
So you got to get out of your own head.
Yes,
absolutely.
And martial arts helped me with
that. Good grief. Oh. Well, first, congratulations on
Thank
that.
You.
But, yeah, I would never doubt you for a minute. You have golden tones.
Yes, he's got the sultry voice, that's for sure. That's why we keep him on this program.
Yeah, it's too bad it was a how-to book on...
Pretty soon we'll get you to read some really cool stuff. But so speaking of some of your training and that confidence you get from your training,
yes.
Do you got any sort of outlandish testing stories? Because we asked Master Lanson the same thing. So we're like, what are some of your kind of crazy, or not necessarily crazy, but ones that stick out in your mind? Where you're like, either that was a really good experience, that was really odd. Like, is there any that kind of come to mind real quick?
I'd say one odd one, but I know what they were keeping the higher ranks busy so that they could dismiss the lower ranks. We had to clean the basement of the Provo dojo.
Did you run into what was the dog's name? I can't remember what the dog's name was.
The killer dog?
Yeah, that was on the chain.
There were probably 25 old vacuums we had to find a dumpster to put those in, and I just thought, wow, what kind of a test is this? But yeah,
looking back on it, you're like, I know what they were doing.
Or a couple times, okay, go out, find a candle and a match when we have no money. After that test, I started hiding $1 in my shoe when I go testing. Like, where am I I'm not gonna go shoplift at Albertsons down the street.
That's what Master Lanton said. He said that somebody would end up inevitably putting money in their shoe.
Yes.
Yep.
Fool me once.
Exactly. No, I've got a funny story. I don't even know if you remember this. This was probably back in, '05 or '06.
Okay.
This is at the old West Jordan Dojo
Yes.
on a Monday night for Academy.
Now, is that the one
Okay.
next to the furniture store or the fishbowl?
That was the one off of Redwood and 72nd.
Oh, that one. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yeah, remember that
Got
one?
it. Yes.
And Russell was running Academy.
Yes.
Okay. So we were doing, I don't even know the lesson that we were doing. And I'm working with someone else. And I raised my hand, not knowing the kind of storm I was getting myself into.
Ooh.
I raised my hand. Master Clegg comes on over. I go, sir, I understand this technique, but I don't understand how somebody smaller would do it on somebody bigger.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he goes, Kelly, come
This is
here.
going. Oh,
He goes, Kelly, come here. Mark doesn't believe that you can do this technique on him.
no.
And I was like, that's not what I said.
Oh.
And then he's like,
Uh-oh.
punch in for her. Oh my gosh, you proceeded to whoop the snot out of me,
Oh,
throw
are
me
you
on the
kidding?
ground, and then you're like, that's how it works. And I was all like,
Oh, no.
yes, sir.
Oh, and I'm so sorry. I don't remember that.
It was funny. You were a second degree at the time, and I think I was only a green belt.
Oh, no.
So I was all like, holy cow, these second degrees are no joke.
Oh. You know, that's amazing that you would say that. Thank you. Because I always feel like a white belt. There's always so much to learn.
And honestly, that's why you are able to stay in it for as long as you have. Because the second you start feeling like you know everything, that's when we got
boy.
problems.
Yes, and oh man, I learn something every single time. Oh well, that's amazing. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, I remember that pretty vividly. Because I was like, I just asked a question. I didn't say they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I was
then
the
Russell-
rabid dog.
Russell stirred the pot and was like, hey, Kelly, Mark doesn't think you can do this on him. And I was like, that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
Oh,
And then on the floor, oh, okay, you made it work.
Took you out to ice cream after or something. Well, there were, I'd say, 2 memorable times that I knew that the martial arts worked. First time, I used to ride the bus to work downtown at KSL, and there was a horrible, mean bus driver. I mean, he was in the wrong profession.
Wow.
He would leave people on the side of the road, just drive past them and snicker and laugh to himself. And more than once, he'd see me and keep going, and I'd have to run full tilt to make it to the next bus stop. And then he'd... So one day I was getting off the bus, and he parked it right over a storm grate that had these tall weeds growing out of it. I mean, he was just so mean. And as I was getting ready to step down, he closed the doors on me. And I did simultaneous 1 and 2 blocks. And I don't know if everyone knows what that looks like, but you put your hands up, and I blocked the door, and I thought, I didn't even care that he was such a jerk to me that day. It was like, I blocked the door! I didn't get killed by the door!
I would like to know what his facial expressions were after that.
Oh, I wish. Yeah, I should have turned around and gone.
Jaw was on the floor, be like, oh, snap.
I was too busy skipping down the street. It works! It works!
Now the question is, did he try to do that again?
No.
He knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Can't mess with Kelly. She might really whoop me.
Oh, hopefully he quit, because I don't know, he didn't bother me ever again.
After that?
And then the other one, working downtown, at that time it wasn't as developed as it is. It was a little bit spooky. I was working late at night, and I parked on the 3rd parking level down. So, sort of... And on the way out to the parking garage, I passed the security desk and thought, should I have one of those guards escort me to my car? And I thought, nah, I don't need them. And just proceeded on my way. And it's that kind of feeling that,
That confidence you
yes,
get.
that I didn't need an escort to my car because, well, I knew how to be aware of my surroundings and could handle something if it came up.
Yeah. You don't want to be that damsel in distress.
Yes, I wasn't this weak, I'm scared to go to my car.
Yeah.
And so those are two aha moments where I thought, this is worth it. I'm so happy that I'm doing this.
That's really cool. I mean, because that's the thing that I think most people don't fully understand about training is you may not actually physically have to get yourself out of a fight.
Right.
It's those subtle, small moments where you're like, you know what? No, I don't need somebody to walk me to my car. I'm fine. Or something instinctually comes at you and you block it, like the doors. It's like things that naturally happen. And all of a sudden you're like, well, okay, there is a reason why we're doing this.
Yes.
And yeah, everybody thinks, well, I'm not going to get into a fight. Well, none of us really hopes to ever get into a fight.
Yes.
I mean, maybe young men in their 20s are all like, I want to test it out. I mean, I went through a phase like that where it's like, man, I really want to see how well, quote unquote, I know my stuff. Now I'm like, I really don't want to get into a fight at all if I have to.
But you could.
Yes.
And, you know, walking to and from my car all those years, I had my keys handy, and I was...
You were aware you're not going to be that victim.
Mentally prepared to do whatever needed to be done. And, well, I was kind of a pain, too. So many people walk through parking garages and just everywhere on their phones.
Oh, yeah.
They're glued to their phones. So I would walk up behind these ladies and go, okay, you're kidnapped. Ooh! and more than one lady at work stopped by my office and said, you know, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And you really made me aware that I'm just oblivious to my surroundings, and I could be in the back of a van somewhere. So, yeah, it's
well, yeah,
it's
and
a great
most
thing.
people don't really take into account that sort of thing.
No.
Like you said, they're so wrapped up in their own world that if it doesn't directly impact right in front of them, they don't realize it.
No, and we give this when we go out and talk to groups of young women and so forth. We talk about now that, you know, have your keys handy and lock your door the minute you get in, and look, and their eyes glaze over like,
oh man,
yeah. But
it's interesting because when you say lock your doors, I mean, most of us take for granted nowadays. We get in the car, we get in, and the door's locked kind of automatically.
Yes.
Shanna's mom, when she was young, she was in a car with her mom, so her mom's name was June.
Uh-huh.
Shanna's mom's name was Joan.
Oh.
I think that's it. I may have gotten them backwards. I was getting confused. But they were in the car. She was fairly young, and her mom looked at Shanna's grandma looked at Shanna's mom and was like, lock the door. Okay, most kids would be like, and her mom just turned around, boom, locked the door. As she turned around and locked the door, someone was about ready to get in the door.
Oh, wow.
So the fact that she didn't hesitate by arguing really kind of prevented her from getting ripped out of the car and borderline being kidnapped.
Ooh.
And it's like...
And that happens.
Yeah, a lot more than most people would think. I mean, here in Utah and here in... Well, I'd probably dare say mostly here in Utah, unfortunately, I feel like we're very sheltered. Like, we understand... Exactly. We understand crimes happen, but we don't really believe that they happen because they never happen to us.
Crimes only happen on the news, right?
Crime only happens on the news, exactly.
Back east somewhere.
Exactly. So we're kind of, I would dare say, naive to the fact that there are bad people out there and they will do bad things and they don't really care about how it makes you feel. Yes. So, and I think the fact that you were actively looking around, you had your keys in your hand.
Yes.
And for some reason, I don't know what it is, but like I associate like muggers and like people that are trying to do violence on people like bullies. Okay?
Yes.
Bullies will always fight the weakest person. Okay, the easiest prey. And when you present yourself a certain way, it resonates, and it like I imagine this like wave of just like energy that fans out, and if it gets near gets near this mugger, they're like, okay, not her, like next person, because they're looking for that quick, easy, like compliance person.
And it's just such a simple thing,
Yeah.
slumping your shoulders or looking down,
Yeah.
or just a frowny face. You radiate victim.
Exactly.
And
But yet, when you're standing up tall, your shoulders are back, you're looking, you're acknowledging people when you walk by them.
yes,
That's a huge one too. Most of the time, when you walk by people, you don't even look at them, or we as a society don't even look at them.
yeah, I've noticed that. Because I do, have eye contact,
Yep.
and they're not looking back at me. I said, "Am I invisible? Why don't people look
Yeah.
me in the eye?"
You're like, I did say hi, jerk. Oh, sorry.
And have a good day to you too, sir.
Exactly. Yeah. So the fact that we're not even willing to look each other in the eyes anymore, that's a big problem.
Oh, yeah, that is sad. And I might annoy people. I'm an elevator talker. I'll get in, "Hello, how are you? And where you going?" And
I think that's great because people, I don't know what it is, but yeah, there used to be a time where it's like you would stop and have conversations with complete strangers on the street.
yes,
And there was a time where you would be able to have a conversation with somebody and you wouldn't think that there was any ulterior motive. Like, this person's trying to sell me something, or like, oh, this person's a creep, all he wants is my number, or, stuff like that, towards you're just like, hi, how are you? We just came across each other. What are you doing today? Oh, I'm off to do the blah, blah, blah.
You've got one of those RF readers. You're trying to get my
Exactly.
my
You're
credit
scanning
card
my credit
information.
So everybody's so jaded to the fact that they think that just because someone talks to you, they're trying to get something from you, that they've lost the ability to communicate with each other.
Yes, and that's a sad state of affairs. I wonder about the kids coming up nowadays, whether they can, how do they conduct business if they don't communicate
Yeah.
with each other?
Yeah, and unfortunately with the pandemic a couple of years ago, it's really pushed children's social developmental skills back, like really bad. Like you've probably noticed it with some of the younger kids at your dojo, but we've noticed it hugely here. There's some kids that you can tell the parents didn't stop doing anything during the pandemic. They had them around other kids, and they had them still doing their same thing. And then you could tell that some parents really kind of isolated and were really protective of who their kids were around. And, because they were trying to do the best they could for their kids. And you can't blame that.
Yes.
And the kids that maintain kind of normal activities
Yes.
are head and shoulders above socially the kids that kind of were more isolated.
I can see that. We have some just wonderful, outgoing kids, and then some that are painfully shy. I don't know how much of that is just your natural
Being
personality,
a little kid,
or upbringing. It's hard to tell, but that confidence not to be overly shy around other people, that's so important, because getting that at a younger age will just affect you the rest of your life. Getting jobs, meeting your spouse even.
Yep.
I was a junior achievement advisor for several years, and boy, there was one kid, I knew he was going to grow up and be president of the United States. He was just so confident, and of course was the president of the junior achievement company we started, because he was just great. But then there were other kids that were, I hate to say it, one called me for a recommendation. And maybe I was being mean, but I hope I was doing him a favor. I said, no, I'm sorry. I can't give you a recommendation because you didn't do anything. You sat by yourself in a chair for 4 months. And hopefully the lesson is
be social.
Yes.
Put yourself out there.
You get involved, get going, or nobody's just going to hand you that plum job you want.
Yeah. No, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people nowadays are. I hope they're starting to take constructive criticism better, but I mean, I know for a while, and I think everybody kind of goes through this phase where it's like if someone tells you something you don't want to hear, you're like, oh my gosh, what a jerk, they're so mean, and blah, blah, blah. But yet, if you really kind of take a step back and look at it, it's like by telling him no, that's exactly what he needed.
He did, and that's why I did it.
Yeah.
I could have been, oh yeah, sure, I'll write your recommendation.
Exactly. You could have just carried along with the status and just been like, all right, whatever. But he would have probably never learned the lesson he needed to learn.
Yes.
It was interesting. I was having this conversation with my mom actually yesterday, and we were talking about growth. And growing, unfortunately, is never painless. Growing is always painful.
Yes.
Whether it be physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, whatever type of growth you want to put in there with it, it's always painful. I mean, my God, we coined a term, growing pains.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when you're growing up, your bones are, your muscles are growing. It hurts.
I remember.
Yeah, and like when you're being stretched mentally, and you're being pushed beyond your quote unquote capabilities, it hurts. It's uncomfortable. You feel awkward and out of place, but yet that's exactly what you need to go through so you don't feel that anymore.
We had an instance of that actually with one of our instructors recently. This is a very athletic person, always first place.
Yeah.
And this person did not want to go to an out-of-state tournament because they were afraid they wouldn't win.
Oh, I think I remember this conversation.
Yes, I believe you were in on it. And we said, losing, not taking home first place, let's put it that way, not losing, is the best thing that could happen to you.
Absolutely.
Because until you know what it's like to lose, how do you appreciate winning?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us as we interviewed Master Kelly DeLessio. Tune in next week for the second part of this interview. Kick it with us then.